Once upon a time, in a kingdom where fairy tales were more than bedtime stories, a whisper spread across enchanted lands that the fairest of them all would soon be chosen, not by love, not by destiny, but by blood. It began with a blackened mirror, one that did not reflect the faces of those who stood before it, but instead whispered secrets of jealousy, rivalry, and hidden truths. Snow White was the first to hear its call. Living peacefully in her forest cottage, surrounded by woodland creatures, she had long thought her happily ever after was secure. But when the mirror cracked with a sinister glow, it whispered, "To remain the fairest, you must prove it with steel, fire, and blood. They are coming." At first, she dismissed it as a hallucination, but the huntsman's axe, which once spared her, suddenly gleamed with fresh crimson though it had not touched flesh in years. That was when she knew a war among princesses had begun. Cinderella was next. Dressed in her gown of tattered memories and glass slippers now sharpened like blades, she had felt something stir deep inside her palace walls. Her prince had grown distant, the magic that once bound her fairy tale fading into dust. Then, the invitation arrived, a parchment sealed with wax, written in ink black as midnight. It read, "The fairest of them all must be crowned. Fight for your place, or be forgotten." She hesitated, torn between the life she had fought for and the darkness creeping into her heart. But as the enchanted carriage outside her castle turned back into a snarling beast instead of a pumpkin, she realized choice was no longer hers to make. She picked up the shards of her old glass slippers, now honed into weapons, and stepped into the night. In the sea's depths, Ariel, the little mermaid who once gave up her voice for love, felt the call too. The waves churned unnaturally, her kingdom trembling as if the ocean itself knew war was coming. Her sisters begged her not to go, but the mirror's reflection appeared even in water, whispering promises of legs strong enough to fight, of a crown heavy enough to command oceans. She rose from the depths, dripping in sea foam, with tridents in her hands instead of seashells. Love had betrayed her once. This time, she would betray no one, only conquer. Aurora, the sleeping beauty, was not spared either. In her castle, roses withered to black thorns, wrapping her tower in suffocating vines. She dreamt of fire, of screams, of the faces of women she once called sisters twisted in rage. When she awoke, it was not to a kiss of love, but to the sting of fate. Her spindle shattered, reshaped into jagged spears, her golden gown soaked in moonlight that made her appear ghostly pale. She was tired of being the passive princess, the one cursed to slumber. If destiny wanted her to fight, she would not close her eyes again until the last breath of her rivals was stolen. The battleground was not a ballroom, not a meadow, not a forest clearing, but a cursed arena hidden deep within a dark valley where all fairy tales met their end. The mirror stood in the center, fractured yet alive, watching, feeding, glowing brighter with every drop of spilled blood. The air stank of roses and iron, of magic and death. One by one, they appeared, Snow White with her poisoned dagger, Cinderella with glass-blade stilettos, Ariel with coral-forged tridents, and Aurora with thorn spears. The mirror whispered, "Fight. Only one may leave." The first clash shattered the silence. Ariel lunged at Snow White, her trident hissing through the air, but Snow's years of surviving wicked queens and poisoned apples had hardened her. She ducked, slicing upward with her dagger, nicking Ariel's arm. The mermaid roared, her blood sizzling on the ground as if the sea itself mourned her wound. Cinderella wasted no time, dashing forward in her glass heels, kicking shards into Aurora's face. Aurora cried out, blinded, but swung her thorn spears wildly, catching Cinderella's side and drawing scarlet lines across her skin. Each princess fought not as a damsel, but as a warrior betrayed by fate. Snow White's innocence became cruelty. She smeared her poisoned blade across wounds, ensuring no strike was clean. Cinderella's sorrow turned to fury. Every glass shard she threw whistled like a scream of her past self. Ariel's heartbreak burned into vengeance. With every thrust of her trident, she cursed the world above and below. Aurora's despair became rage. Her thorn spears grew longer with every drop of blood they drank, as if her curse had awakened into new, darker magic. The arena rang with the sound of breaking glass, splintering bone, and the mirror's wicked laughter. Time became meaningless. There was only blood, pain, and the promise of victory. One by one, the princesses fell. Ariel, her body sinking into phantom waves that rose from the ground, dragged her trident down with her last breath. Aurora, pierced by a glass slipper through her heart, collapsed into the thorns that had once protected her tower, now devouring her like hungry beasts. Cinderella and Snow White stood last, both broken, both bleeding, both transformed into monsters of survival. Snow White staggered forward, dagger trembling in her hands, whispering through cracked lips, "I must remain the fairest." But Cinderella, with her dress shredded into ribbons and her hands dripping red, smiled coldly. "No, darling. Fairness is for stories. This is survival." With one swift motion, she slammed her glass heel into Snow White's chest, the sound of shattering echoing across the arena. Snow's eyes widened as the mirror absorbed her fading reflection. She collapsed, her once rosy lips now blue. Cinderella, shaking and gasping, turned to the mirror. It glowed bright, showing her reflection, not as a girl once saved by magic, but as a queen forged in blood. The voice whispered, "You are the fairest of them all." Yet when she reached for the crown of shadows that appeared in the mirror's surface, her hand passed through. The mirror laughed. "But fairness comes with a curse. You will reign, yes, but alone forever. For you have killed not your enemies, but your sisters." Cinderella screamed, her voice echoing into eternity as the mirror shattered completely. The arena crumbled, leaving her trapped in ruins, her glass heels sinking into ash. No kingdom, no prince, no happily ever after. Only silence and the ghosts of the women who fought before her. The fairy tale had ended, not with love's kiss, but with blood's betrayal. And in the forgotten ruins, where roses turned black and glass bones glittered like stars, a warning remained etched into stone. Be careful what you wish to be. The fairest of them all is cursed to be the loneliest of them all.